2023. And of course the ever popular and famous blades, but that is business. It's been tough for everybody over the last few years, but nonetheless it allows the door to open for newcomers and for others perhaps in less assuming places to actually make their mark, and Team Raven definitely have done that this season so far as well. But we've got old favourites, and I say old really, I have to be careful with Rod Dean. He's going to be bringing the Firefly in a little later on this afternoon, but I think he's well over 50 years as an air air display pilot Rod Dean, and a charming chap who are still doing it, which is marvellous, marvellous news indeed. May be a little frisky later for the parachutists, we'll see, but here, coming in from the right-hand side, please welcome today's first act, the Boltley Spitfire. Yes, this is the city of Exeter. Just welcoming that aircraft now with a little blast of the Spitfire prelude, but we will of course just quieten it for a moment to completely absorb this machine. It is just utterly delightful in the hands today of Neil Parkinson. And I used to say that actually it was always the way to end an air display, to put on a solo Spitfire, but in this case absolutely poignant given the history of this coastline and the Second World War, and the history of the Spitfire itself and the other fighters that of course not only crossed this bit of the channel, but also many and many of them crashing in the hinterland just behind Eastbourne. The stunning looks, the style, the elan, the speed, the shape, it just is so emotive as an aircraft. This is just a wonderful beast, highly maneuverable. Those thin elliptical wings, of course, although R.J. Mitchell was the head of the design team, of course many others like Shenstone and his own other assistants all contributed to this phenomenal design. The thinnest possible cross-section of that wing there, giving the aircraft its higher top speed than other contemporary fighters of the day. Sadly, Mitchell didn't get to see the amazing success this aircraft had, of course, well over 20,000. Remained in production throughout the course of the war as well. And so many successes. And by the end of it, you're going to see the tail end of development of the Spitfire range when the Rolls-Royce Spitfire arrives in an hour or so's time. This particular aircraft, though, was built in Castle-Bromwich by Vickers Armstrong, delivered to the RAF in October 1944 as a Mark 9 high-altitude fighter. Classic, the Mark 9 in so many different ways, and a refinement, adding power. Of course, the Browning machine guns only appeared on the very early Marks, had very, very short bursts, and the introduction of the cannons made a big, big difference to the fighting power of this machine. Originally allocated to an anti-aircraft cooperation squadron, it was latterly sold on to the South African Air Force and last flown there by Ron Beamish of 2 Squadron. Stored like so many warbirds for many, many years, they fell into disrepair and not used enough. But of course, we thank so many men and opportunities that arose financing these marvellous aircraft to bring them back into fully flying condition. Very much a hybrid to a certain extent. It's the spares for this particular aircraft were sourced literally from all over the world, and is a story in itself of epic restoration that saw so much scavenging put this aircraft back into the air again. dogged determination to return such iconic fighters to the skies, of course. Some, however, of those parts found pretty close to home. Bringing through on a lovely topside pass. You can see him sat squat right in the centre of the fuselage. Perhaps every pilot should be sat right over the top of the wings. Really gives you a marvellous feeling to be right in the centre of any aircraft. So what's the backstory to this? Well, would you believe one of the wings was salvaged from a hedge outside a pub near Exeter. And with a fully rebuilt Merlin engine installed, and the CAA happy that all the work of refurbishment had been done to the highest standards. It entered the air again in December 2012. It was the last aircraft to be assembled at Filton Aerodrome, of course the old home of Concorde. Classic steep climb into the loop there. Of course, all pilots that fly these aging warbirds always treat them very gently, not overloading the aircraft too heavily to keep them going for many generations to come. Presenting always just an outstanding silhouette as it is now as he pulls high. Immense pleasure. So given that little bit of historic connection with a hedge near Exeter, the aircraft itself is now known as the City of Exeter in honour of a presentation Spitfire which was donated through the war effort as a result of local fundraising. And that was a very common theme during the course of the Second World War. Each town and city around the country doing their best to get another fighter or bomber into the air to keep the war efforts going. The aircraft was presented to the Royal Air Force originally at Royal Air Force West Hampnet, almost 75 years to the day before Romeo 232, its fuselage numbering, arrived at its present operating base at Goodwood, the very same grass runways, of course, that were there in the Second World War. Whilst we refer to this as the Boltby one, it's because it is operating through the Boltby Flight Academy, but actually in association with their friends at Tool Care Hire, and you'll find it at Spitfires.com. Now into the latter part of his display routine, Neil giving you the best opportunities to see every angle of this superlative fighter. They always say if it looks right, it flies right, and this one certainly did from the day, of course, that it was entered by Supermarine into the outstanding contest taking place in Solent back in the early 1930s. That, of course, was the Schneider Trophy, and it went on to be the basic design that led to this machine. Now, of course, we claim many things about the Spitfire, but the one thing it didn't do was get the majority of kills in the certainly in the first part of the Battle of Britain. They're coming online a little later. The Hurricane's still very much the stalwart of that particular campaign, and we'll see its playmate a little later on. So in the background you hear my radio buzzing away there. That is our next act checking in. And a moment to just thank many of our supporters who've helped put this show on the road here today. West Rocks Hotel for their very kind and generous donation. The View, Cumberland and the Lansdowne Hotels, all accommodating the air display teams that are here. And GM Monk Renewables giving sponsorship support. Caffins, of course, you've heard on Radio Airbourne earlier on today. Birchwood Ford and the Euro Self-Drive supplying transportation. And you notice that at the same time this event has worked very hard to maintain sustainability at its maximum as well, to ensure that recyclables, renewables and everything else are being encouraged. As with all your rubbish, what we'd like you to do today is actually hang on to it, take it with you and then dispose of it sensibly. If you do dispose it here on site, you'll be glad to know that it is all going to be sorted. Nothing will go to the landfill, and all the recyclable stuff will of course be taken out. So that's all good news for everybody on the planet. Gemini Print are responsible for printing the daily flying times. Again, just a reminder, if you've got a program and you want the updated programs every day, if you're here for 4 days, then you just go to a program seller and pick up the daily print of that. That'll help you out. And also Ohm Energy, I've got a great sustainability zone here as well. Many people, lots of volunteers. One of the most important things to do when the bucket collectors come past you, please drop a few pennies in there, well, pounds really, and notes even better if you can, just to help us keep this show going for a few more years yet. It is a struggle. It costs a huge amount of money. You've heard the stories. It's been well publicised, not just here, but right across the UK. All struggling with the various opportunities and cost of living. But it is great entertainment. It's also good to commemorate when we see these warlords, our forefathers and the efforts they went to give us this world we live in, and make the most of that. Now the Western Lawns, of course, available all day long as well for you to go and wander around, particularly the youngsters. Huge amount of stuff there for you to engage in. That's open from 10:30 till 6 most days. And I understand there's a couple of seats left in the grandstand. If you want to upgrade your experience here today, just go and sit there and get a slightly more private and elevated view. Just £30 extra for adults and £20 for children. But from tomorrow onwards, it's fully booked. So today, an only opportunity. So we're just keeping our eyes peeled now. I hear the aircraft, I hear the skipper. They're running in from the right-hand side. Please welcome Team Raven. Pulling straight up into what they call their Delta Loop. Led from the front as always by Sid Shirley. Super champion, so more about him and the rest of the team in detail a little later on. But what you're seeing here is an absolute masterclass in formation flying. It's quite a big wing to fly. Frequently, the guys on the outside struggling a bit in some of these turns because all the speed's slightly different, whether you're at the top or the bottom and how much G you're pulling. Coming back in this side now, good opportunity as Sid brings the team back into the underside pass. And there you go, the little cadence you'll hear in all formation teams there, or when the action or changes to the formation is all made on the very, very last tone that is expressed from the last syllable of the final word. So you hear the smoke going on and off. The reason for that, of course, is to ensure that you've got enough smoke to last you throughout the whole display. So, whilst the rest of the team form into box on the right-hand side, coming in, Ravens 4 and 5 to break. Executing a super roll there, breaking out onto what we call the 45, giving us a quarter clover, the 45 being our left and right angles. If you hear anybody refer to the B axis, that's a straight line out in front of you, and the A axis, as the team are coming in now from the right-hand side, is left to right or right to left, all the way along the seafront. Sid now bringing them in box for the barrel roll.
Rolling left now.
And you just see how calm that is. Each of them doing their very best to replicate every maneuver in the slightest, lightest possible manner of the leader himself. And that's what keeps them in that formation. Magnificent aircraft, really, really light, agile, great touring aircraft these as well, very, very economic as well, but also, as you can see, supremely well designed for aerobatic. As they break out to the left now, keep your eyes on the main team as they come back in for the Cyclone. Sid leading the display team, an ex-Royal Air Force fast jet pilot, well over 5,000 hours now, has done multiple tours on the Tornado F3 as well as a QFI on the Hawk and the Grob Tutor as well. We're going to see one of those a little later on. And now more latterly on the Grob 120 TP Prefect. There's the current training aircraft. He's currently serving as a reservist QFI and flight commander on the University of Wales Air Squadron at St Athan in South Wales. Keep your eyes now on the main team as they reposition for their next manoeuvre. Of course, when you're punching out into wind, it looks terribly slow, doesn't it? And it's often quite tricky with such a strong, what we call on-crowd wind. absolutely critical that they fly as precisely as possible, and of course it's all about energy management at the same time. Coming in now, what I referred to earlier on is the B-axis, the one going straight in there in delta formation, coming up for a wonderful split called the vertical split.
Break, go.
There's the call. What a lovely sight. Flying immediately alongside Sid is Pete Wells, of course, hugely well-known guy, self-taught almost, well over 6,000 hours, soloed in his 16th birthday. Very, very popular man on the air display circuit, has flown all sorts of aircraft, and very much into composites, because his company is called Zulu Glass Tech, and that's in Oxfordshire, and he is the go-to man if you want to repair one of these sharp little shooters. Good cross coming up. This is Ravens 4 and 5 now performing their crossovers. Gerald Williams, well-known professional rugby player from South Wales, also played in New Zealand and South Africa. A big beast of a man, a hugely entertaining chap, really competent pilot. And in the other aircraft, Russ Eatwell taking up the position as Raven 5. He was certainly flying in his very early years indeed, accumulated well over 15,000 hours. Many of that, of course, during his time with the Royal Navy's Fleet Air Arm. Team now exiting on the right-hand side. Keep your eyes peeled now on Ravens 4 and 5 coming in for their battle loop. This refers to the battle positions that you adopt in military training and of course in combat as well, far enough away so that you get a good sight right around the horizon for looking out for any oppositions. Now keep your eyes back now on Ravens 1, 2, 3 and 6, coming back in on the centre line straight towards you. Another good break coming up, great photographic opportunity.
Break, go.
Absolutely outstanding. So while they're braking and repositioning, Ravens 4 and 5, Russ and Gerald will come back in for a tail chase loop. Now this is also part of training as well, the tail chase, absolutely important for, of course, fighter training in the later years, but this time just replicating it by pulling up now. And this will be the first of 2 loops. So neatly done by 4 and 5. Look out for 1, 2, 3 and 6 now. Keep your eyes peeled at crowd centre. Look out to sea. Just close to that yacht, you can see bobbing about way out into the ocean now. Rolling into a barrel roll.
Softening back. Quick and dirty.
And wonderful repositioning, you notice there into l'echelon for that excellent break. Now, here's one for all your partners out there, whoever you're hugging today, or you're missing. Let's dedicate this heart to the one you love. And you can hear the wonderful chitter chat in the background. Absolutely brilliant listening to these guys. They've really, really worked hard to finesse this fabulous display. Now, there's a lovely manoeuvre coming up in a moment as Ravens 1, 2, and 3. They're coming in from our right-hand side. Look high and up there. You see the smoke is on. Coming in now for what they call the crocodile loops. I think it's a delightful manoeuvre. And to perfection, absolutely delightful. Now you see the other aircraft in the sky all doing their best now to quickly reposition with the rest of the team. And the one man right at the end who's going to get in there last, I haven't mentioned yet, that is of course Raven 6 and Mark Southern. Now he is by trade an airline pilot and he's been flying the 757 for a very, very long time, as well as the 767. Also latterly the Airbus 321 and 330 as a training captain. But he, like so many, started flying as a teenager in the Royal Air Force, initially as an aero electronics operator on the Nimrods, and then into fishery protection and search and rescue roles as well. He then went on to train on the Jet Provost and the Hawks. It's very much my generation of pilot training. He flew fast jets, the Tornado GR1, and also the JP in the instructional role. But the team now back in, and you see, look, just getting in the nick of time from the left-hand side. This is a wonderful manoeuvre. Sid leading them now into what we call the Twizzles. Absolutely delightful manoeuvre, really smoothly done. And they'll be bumping around, of course, there. This, you're feeling this wind on your faces as you're sitting there watching this. Well, I can assure you, they work very, very hard to keep to that precision formation, and it does take an awful lot of commitment and training. I'm not sure, I just heard a message there between air traffic, the team just repositioning. I'm not sure whether we're going to conclude with their final manoeuvre. Yeah, here we come back in. All is well. So you hear the chit-chat in the background. They're all perfectly forming up, coming in now from the right-hand side. They pull up into what we call a quarter clover, and surprisingly that's only one part, the very first part of doing a full clover manoeuvre, and then a delightful downward bomber. So keep your eyes peeled on us. Going into the roll, keeping smooth, keeping tight. The men on the outside there working really hard to keep that formation as tight as possible. And look at the drift as well they're getting. And there it is. And that is Team Raven complete. Absolutely splendidly done. I will pass on your grateful thanks, but you can give them a wave and a cheer and a clap your hands, whatever you'd like to do. It is a team effort, including you lot as well out there, all having a great day out, I hope. So here's the first of a slight change to the changes we made. We were hoping to see the Fury next, but that just had a bit of trouble starting up a little while ago at its home base, so we've just slipped that down the program a little bit, and I understand we're going to bring on the Tutor a little bit early. So let me just take a short break myself, and we'll find out what is actually going to happen. aircraft, bringing on the Tutor with a bit of a surprise for him, and then we'll postpone the Fury until just before the Firefly, which will be in about, around about 45 minutes time. So again, just a chance then to top up the teas and coffees, grab yourself an ice cream, sort out the kids, and just basically have a chilled out afternoon. I hope you're all having fun. Not much else I can do really to keep you entertained, but we're enjoying it, and we really hope that you are as well. As I mentioned earlier on, it's always tricky getting these things back in the air, but we hope you're going to stay around here as long as you can. It's just delightful for me to return here. I must admit, I've lost track of the years, but I would imagine, given the number of people who've said hi and given me a wave, that it's at least a decade for many of the chums, but it is just a tremendous team doing all this. And of course, as the days goes on, the program gets fatter as well, with the Typhoon back with us tomorrow. And let's, fingers crossed, hope that the Red Arrows fix their technical issues with their aeroplanes and get to join us over the course of the weekend as well. You'll be jumped on, but also anything else, especially with this wind, it is dangerous. We've got all sorts of things in the air, and it just makes flying a little bit more vulnerable. and experienced on this particular aircraft, Flying Officer Lewis Osborne.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the 2023 Royal Air Force Tutor Display. My name is Master Osborne, but you can call me Aussie, and I'm the Tutor Display Manager for this season. It's a pleasure to display the Grob to you today. He also has a penchant for Michelin-starred restaurants. During his varied career, DJ has amassed over 6,000 flying hours on 50 different aircraft types. Their tutor is operated by number 6 Flying Training School, and this is primarily for UAS students and air cadets. 6 Flying Training School is also engaged in other essential defence tasks, such as frontline mission rehearsal and the training of mission support crew. The wingover is a combined pitching and rolling manoeuvre used to turn the flight path through 180 degrees. You will notice that every wingover is slightly different as DJ carefully selects his flight path for different wind conditions and aircraft energy states. The tutor has a top speed of 212 miles per hour and can achieve a maximum of 6G, meaning the pilot is subjected to forces 6 times stronger than gravity. It may not be as loud or as fast as other aircraft on the display circuit, but displaying the tutor requires careful energy management due to its low power to weight ratio. DJ's now used a wingover to regain as much energy as possible as he sets up to perform his next manoeuvre. There are 13 air experience flights across the UK. They serve over 1,200 air cadet squadrons and RAF Combined Cadet Force units nationwide. Each year, the Experience Flights offers trips to 20,000 cadets. You can join the Air Cadets if you are between 12 and 17 years old. And from the age of 13, you can glide in the Viking or fly in the Tutor and experience aerobatic manoeuvres like you see here today. The RAF Air Cadets is also one of the largest providers of the Duke of Edinburgh Award Scheme and offers another range of adventurous training. The Grob 115E Tutor is operated in partnership with BAC International Group. It is constructed of a carbon composite material and has a 180 horsepower Lycoming piston engine. DJ will pull up into the vertical for another stall turn, and this is an excellent photo opportunity. As DJ presents the underside of the aircraft to you, you will see the Royal Air Force Benevolent Fund's heart. Seen since 2022 to celebrate a fantastic charity. The Benevolent Fund supports Royal Air Force personnel, air cadets, veterans and their wider families whenever they are in need. We're proud to raise awareness for a charity that gives so much to the whole of the RAF family. For those of you that are considering going to university, there are 15 university air squadrons across the UK. Students in university air squadrons are taught to fly the tutor by highly experienced military flying instructors. The tutor is capable of sustained inverted flight, which is now being demonstrated on this inverted pass. Sat at negative 1G, hanging straps, this is not a comfortable position to be in as blood rushed to his head. The university air squadrons provide a huge opportunity for personal development. They particularly embrace the Royal Air Force's core values of respect, integrity, service and excellence. The UAS offers a wide variety of adventurous training in the UK and expeditions across the globe. In the 4-point roll, DJ will delicately use the rudder to support the nose above horizon whilst flying at 90 degrees angle of bank. Visit our tent, website or view the tutor display leaflets to access a QR code to donate to the Benevolent Fund. University Air Squadron members are not committed to a military career after graduation. However, many do decide to join the Royal Air Force. There are sponsorship schemes available to ease the financial burden of university life, and why not visit the tutor stand and talk to some students from the University of London Air Squadron about their experiences. I'd take this moment to say a big thank you to our supporters this season. They are the Royal Air Force Benevolent Fund, Breitling UK, Squadron Prince and Babcock, who provided much of the merchandise that supported us throughout the season. Following this swing over, DJ will complete the loop. The loop is a quintessential aerobatic manoeuvre. As he pulls up, he is subject to 5G. DJ aims to pitch the aircraft around an imaginary circle in the sky, and even when inverted, the centrifugal forces keep him pressed into his seats. The high tempo of Royal Air Force operations continue today, with aircraft and personnel deployed around the world, operating with NATO and our other allies. All the while, our QRA forces secure the skies above the United Kingdom 24/7, 365, in the Typhoon you'll see later this week. Today, the Royal Air Force is recruiting for multiple rewarding and demanding professions. These professions include aircrew, air operating controllers, engineers, medics, cyberspace specialists, and many more. And come see the village to see all of the military stands today. The Royal Air Force has an exciting future with the continued development of the Lightning, Poseidon, and Space Commands. After completing this wing over, DJ will enter the slow roll. Get your cameras ready for some great angles, and make sure to tag the RF Tutor display on social media so we can see your shots. Throughout the slow roll, DJ will skillfully coordinate elevator, rudder, and aileron inputs in order to keep the lift vector pointing upwards. DJ will now bring the Tutor around for his departing wave. And this is another great photo opportunity. Make sure you return his wave as he flies through. He can see you, and a big thank you to Eastbourne for hosting us today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the 2023 Royal Air Force Tutor Display.
Well, that was absolutely superb, and yeah, that's what you call a wing waggle wave, isn't it? Just a full 180 left, full 180 right. Really impressively done, and don't be deceived out there. Very often it's the small aircraft that can be the most difficult to fly, particularly in bumpy, turbulent conditions like this. Just up about between 200 and 500 feet, there's a very thick section of very, very bumpy, turbulent air as it breezes up over the hills, particularly over Beachy Head there. It can be very, very difficult to keep repositioning the lightweight aircraft with very low energy, and you'll hear this throughout the course of the rest of the display today, and of course over the weekend as well. But brilliantly well done. It's done tremendous service, of course, now in its latter days in military with the introduction of newer aircraft, more suited really to training people for the modern jet age. Well, we've got another little gap coming up now, and that's just simply because of the repositioning of aircraft as a result of the Fury just having a few issues on startup a little while ago. And but we will be back on time in 10 minutes' time with the full Battle of Britain Memorial Flight display. And I know something that will save the number of veterans I meet here every year is intimately linked with the tremendous support that, of course, the team gets up in Bomber County, up in Lincolnshire as well. But no less support, I can assure you, not just down here, but throughout the whole of the United Kingdom for them. So again, another little chance to top up on your teas and coffees, entertain the children, get yourself a programme, and while you're doing that, if you haven't picked one up yet, make sure you get the up-to-date daily flying programme as well. There have been significant changes, either no-shows. I'm sure if you've just arrived here, by the way, I'm very sorry to tell you that the Red Arrows will not be performing here today. They're still working very hard on the technical difficulties discovered across the fleet yesterday. It was very much what we'd call in motoring terms a general recall, and once they get to understand that problem, then hopefully they'll release the team as soon as possible to get back on the display circuit. The Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, of course, doing a tremendous amount every year. They just have so many targets, as we call in the business, they just can't stop flying. You'll be hearing more about them from one of their youngsters in a few minutes' time.
Sergeant Liam Osmond, and I'm delighted to introduce to you the Royal Air Force Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. The BBMF, as it's known, is in its 66th year, having been formed officially in 1957. Our fleet of World War II aircraft are preserved in flying condition as a living tribute to the 120,000 men and women who gave their lives in service of the RAF.
Coming in now from your left-hand side.
I'll give you a moment, ladies and gentlemen, just to appreciate the roar of those iconic engines as they make their initial approach. What an entrance, and one we hope will stay with you long after this display. Today's display will comprise of the Lancaster, the Hurricane and the Spitfire. All based at RAF Coningsby in Lincolnshire since 1976. We are a regular flying squadron of the Royal Air Force. We have a very small but dedicated team of RAF regulars, reserves and civil servants who are all involved in making these displays possible. We have roles ranging from aircraft engineers and pilots to operations, admin, public relations and training personnel who work behind the scenes. We are a living memorial to those that served, honouring and promoting the courage and bravery of those that came before us. However, we also proudly give our support and inspiration to the future generations and support several STEM initiatives through virtual reality and simulator experiences. The Battle of Britain aircraft attend over 900 events with displays and flypasts, meaning we appear in front of millions every summer. And we support events from village fetes to state occasions and travel to all corners of the United Kingdom, as well as occasional visits overseas. The specific aircraft we have displaying for you today are Hurricane PZ865, Lancaster PA474 and Spitfire AB910. Spitfire AB910 is a Mark 5B with an incredible 143 operational missions to her name, including sorties over D-Day. She proudly wears the D-Day markings of 64 Squadron aircraft BM327, flown by Flight Lieutenant Tony Cooper, one of the flight commanders on 64 Squadron in 1944. As well as her involvement in D-Day, AB also flew 4 sorties in August 1942 during the fierce aerial battle in support of Operation Jubilee, the Dieppe Raid. One of her pilots, Flight Sergeant Dixie Alexander, was credited with destroying a Dornier 217 bomber. AB 910 also famously flew the first unauthorised Spitfire passenger. Margaret Horton was weighing the tail down whilst the aircraft was taxiing to take off, and the pilot unknowingly got airborne. Amazingly, Margaret managed to hang on and the pilot safely landed the aircraft. Neither Margaret nor the pilot or the aircraft were harmed. Post-war, AB flew as an air racer for 6 years before being returned to Vickers Armstrong for refurbishment in 1953. After this, it was displayed regularly by the renowned Spitfire test pilot Geoffrey Quill until being donated by the company to the BBMF in 1965. PZ-865 is a very special Hurricane. She was the last Hurricane to be built, rolling off the Hawker production line at Langley in July 1944, with the inscription, "The last of the many," on her port and starboard sides. Keen to preserve the last Hurricane built, Hawkers purchased the aircraft back from the Air Ministry and kept it in storage at Langley. In 1950, PZ-865 was entered in the King's Cup Air Race by Her Royal Highness Princess Margaret, flown by Group Captain Peter Townsend, and it achieved second place. During the 1960s, PZ was returned to its wartime camouflage scheme and made numerous display appearances, often in the hands of the famous fighter pilot and test pilot Bill Bedford. It also appeared in the film The Battle of Britain. In March 1972, after a complete overhaul, PZ-865 was flown to Coltishall and presented by Hawker Siddeley to the BBMF. PZ-865 currently appears in an all-black night fighter colour scheme, replicating Hurricane Mark II Charlie BE-634. The squadron's Hurricanes were used for night air defence of Plymouth and Exeter areas, and for night intruder operations against targets in northwestern France. Last but by no means least, ladies and gentlemen, to display today is the Avro Lancaster PA-474, which is one of only two of these iconic four-engine heavy bombers still airworthy out of nearly 7,400 that were produced. She is a flying memorial to those who served in RAF Bomber Command and those who tragically lost their lives. This year we remember Operation Chastise, better known as the Dam Busters Raid, which took place 80 years ago this year. PA-474 was built at the Vickers Armstrong Broughton factory at Havilland in 1945 at the end of the war, so did not see any operational service. The aircraft joined the BBMF in 1973, making this her 50th year with us. PA-474 was officially adopted by the City of Lincoln in 1975, and permission was granted for the aircraft to display the coat of arms and the name of the city on its nose. PA-474 is currently painted on its port side as Lancaster Whiskey 5005 ARL for leader, with nose art depicting a kangaroo in miner's boots playing the bagpipes, which represented the mixed nationalities of its crew at the time. On the starboard side, PA474 wears the 50 Squadron code letters VNT, which were the code letters of the aircraft in which Flying Officer Dougie Milliken flew 27 of the 35 operations on his tour with 50 Squadron. He was grandfather to the former OC BBMF Andy Milliken, and we are very proud to have Lancaster PA474 based at Coningsby in Lincolnshire, the very heart of Bomber County. If you would like to keep up to date with our activity, you can find us on social media. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at RAFBBMF and on Facebook at bbmf.official. You can also visit our PR team who are here at the show today, and they can answer any of your questions. We've been the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, and we do hope that you've enjoyed our display here today in Eastbourne. I would like to leave you with one final thought, and that is the flight's motto: lest we forget.
And I think that's the all-important few words there, Liam. Thank you very much for that. Lest we forget, 55,000 casualties in Bomber Command. Absolutely extraordinary. And also in the battle itself, of course, 2,353 airmen took part in that, and 570 of them were not even British. It's the most extraordinary set of statistics. 544 lost, of course. The average age of the pilots just 22, and the average life expectancy at just 4 weeks. And marvellous and very poignant opportunity, and it doesn't get much better than that, particularly when you see the aircraft departing into the sunshine over Beachy Head. A very, very emotional moment, and I'm sure the veterans here today will share that moment with me. Well, we take another little break right now, but a chance perhaps on that touching moment from the Royal Air Force there, and our thanks to Flight Sergeant Liam Osman. I also want to mention, in terms of the veterans, the contribution and the very, very kind donation made by the Hacker family in memory of Len and Lucy Hacker, and also Lee, the son of Len and Lucy. Len, a member of 21 Squadron, and it was so nice to meet the family earlier on today and to receive that donation on behalf of Airbourne and keeping this wonderful air show in the air. But make the most of the RF Village. Top up teas and coffees, be back with you. We've got about 15 minutes or so until we reset the realigned Fury display coming up very shortly. Steve Jones, an absolutely splendid chap, well known on the British Air Display circuit and indeed internationally as well. There's involvement in past Red Bull Air races, and he is coming in from the left-hand side of Pevensey Bay in about 2 to 3 minutes' time in the Fury. Jones. You can see straight away what an impressive machine this is, and quite a sizable beast as well. It's got an enormous great Bristol Centaurus Mark 18 engine on the front end there, giving it a max speed of around 400 miles an hour. Navy terms, it was the last great propeller-driven fighter to serve with them, and certainly one of the fastest production single-piston engine aircraft ever built. Although designed and developed during the course of the Second World War, the Fury didn't really begin to enter service until it was around about 2 years after the war had ended, but certainly featuring hugely in the Royal Navy's inventory for sure. This particular Mark II, Sierra Romeo 611, produced by Hawkers as a Fury ISS, an Iraqi single-seat aircraft for the Iraqi Air Force. It's part of a contract for 60 aircraft, and this one, 315, within that particular batch, it was brought to Orlando in Florida, in Iraq, from Iraq in 1979. The aircraft family became popular with many overseas militaries, and whilst the Navy may have scored fame in the Korean War, of course, and their encounter with a MiG-15, other Air Force took notable activity in such events as the Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba. Using up a little bit more airspace than undoubtedly you would expect, being a heavier machine. Steve nonetheless really putting it through its paces. Flown just about everything from the smallest aircraft. He used to have a Pitts himself that he just used more or less as a taxi and a practice aircraft. Of course, did a huge amount of aerobatic work and some daredevil activities on behalf of Red Bull, but also flying right up to the top end of airliners as big as the A380. Really naturally gifted pilot, doing a wonderful topside view there as he repositions the aircraft now to a slackish wing over, bring it back in from the right hand side. The aircraft was put back into airworthy condition out in Texas, having been through the Lawrence Coleman Warbird Museum, and started flying again in 1991. We were very much hoping to show this as a pairs formation with the Tempest out of the air leasing stable with Ultimate Warbirds up at Sidewell in Northamptonshire, but sadly the Tempest still not ready enough yet to be displayed. But this very much a lighter version of the Tempest fighter, so very much it would have been grand, and will be, to see the pair of them in the air together. Main modifications being on the wings and the fuselage. Shipped across to the UK in the September of 1991, passed through a couple of owners, flying originally with the markings of a Dutch Navy and also a Royal Australian Navy aircraft, and then put on to the Civil Register, and exported back to Australia before coming back here again. had a good range in excess of 500 miles and armed with 4 Hispano 20mm or Mark 5 autocannons, able to carry 12 3-inch rockets as well, and 2,000-pound bombs. I think Steve just calling up for his final pass after this manoeuvre. Aircraft in great hands now, with a whole stable of magnificent warbirds at Air Leasing Limited, and flying in one of the colours of one of the Hawker's Sea Fury prototypes. Still, Steve, I thought that may have been his plan, but just calling up for one more pass before he disappears off to our left-hand side now. So you know what to do, boys and girls, mums and dads. Give Steve a huge wave, whatever you've got, hats, coats, umbrellas, ice creams. Doing an absolutely consummate job for us here today. He just tips it slightly to get a canopy look at you guys as well. He's taking a peek, so here we go, from right to left then. Huge wave and send-off for Steve Jones in the Fury. And that is him complete, off into the wild blue yonder. Again, yet an outstanding sight. Real warbird afternoon, this display schedule has turned into. Absolutely magnificent treat for such enthusiasts, certainly like me. Just a quick word to our sponsors. We mentioned one or two. Birchwood, of course, with transportation. Caffin's supporting our radio Airbourne here, and transmissions out on 87.7, streaming on the internet as well. The Euro self-drive and Gemini print, but also more radio, taking a big look this year and offering tremendous support from Tom, Lindsay and Jack at More Radio Breakfast. And you might have heard their competition, is it a bird or is it a plane, for the chance to win a VIP day at Airbourne in the exclusive hospitality we've got here today. And I understand the first winner is Michelle from Worthing, who correctly guessed that a McDonnell Douglas Eagle is indeed a plane and not a bird. So well done, Michelle, for that. I hope you're going to enjoy your day out with us here. But also Stagecoach supporting, of course, our big bid to be as sustainable and effective as possible in providing a brilliant bus service to and from the 5-acre car park. And I understand the bicycle parking working out really well too. All helped by tremendous support from SignTech for providing various signage, and to Mark and the team at West Rocks Hotel for supporting us with a tremendous donation as well. It all helps. It is a massive team effort, as I mentioned earlier on, so please give generously when the bucket collectors come along. Even buying a program, if you haven't got one yet, will help out as well. And finally, a massive support from the View, Cumberland and Landstone hotels for putting up all our very worthy air crew, giving up their time at weekends to entertain us. aircraft, please welcome the Slingsby Firefly. Now, we can talk forever about Rod's career and amazing experience in aviation. We'll maybe dip in and out of that a little bit, but first of all, let's just look at this entry, and really outstanding it was as well, because Rod certainly has all the manoeuvres in his head, part of his DNA really from a very young lad indeed, going back well over 50 years now since he first displayed a Hunter in the Royal Air Force. Still doing it now well into his 70s, and this aircraft, well, it was the predecessor of the Grob in terms of military training, the initial training. Again, it's a tremendous trainer in many respects, very easy layout, and great visibility as well, good touring aircraft in many, many ways. Produced and developed initially from a Fournier RF6, which was a French-designed wooden two-seater aircraft, and the rights to that were bought by Slingsby, and they produced this, developing a glass-reinforced plastic structure, which was more suitable to modern training aircraft. So this was in service, essentially managed by Hunting Aviation with the military to do the initial elementary flying training for many, many years, and used by the Army in particular for their flying grading courses as well, before the Grob came in. And of course that, as we mentioned earlier on when the Tutor was flying, that now in the course of being displaced by more modern aircraft as well. But this, the T-67M, aimed directly at the military training requirements. With a standard aircraft, fuel-injected 160 horsepower engine with a 3-blade constant speed propeller, but with inverted fuel and oil systems, and really a real pleasurable aircraft to fly. Having done a good few dozen hours on it myself, and also in formation. It was splendid to operate that, and in tail shows as well. You feel you're in a much bigger fighter-style aircraft with the 360-degree visibility you get sitting atop in that big canopy that you see on the top of the aircraft itself. Rod retired from the Air Force in 1984. That was after 21 years service, so he's been displaying civil aircraft for almost 40 years now, and clearly a bit longer for the Royal Air Force side. Spent his whole time flying on operational squadrons, an absolutely incredibly lucky man in many respects, principally flying the Hunter and the Jaguar, but with a bit of extra time on the Hawk, the Jet, Provost, of course, the Meteor, the Gnat and the Chinook, and was the Strike Command Hunter display pilot at Chivna in 1972-73, flying well over 50 public displays over the 2 seasons, and coming out of it as the winner of the WD&HO Wills Solo Jet Display Trophy at the North Wales International Airshow in 1972. And some of us, I suspect, of a more senior age, remembering the great days of air displays in the 70s as well. Altogether, what seemingly now was a very different world. But we're back into energy management with this particular display, and you'll particularly see also the adjustments Rod is having to make with this very strong wind now, particularly, as I mentioned earlier, between the 200 and 500 foot band, where it's an awful lot bumpier as well, a lot of turbulence there, going through a lovely barrel roll there. All 3 axes in constant subtle movement to ensure you get that precisely down the fly line. It's very easy to lose the drift on that. Makes it look simple. And looking absolutely gorgeous as the sun glints off at the top. Of course, yellow, a very high conspicuity colour, yellow and black being decided by the military generally as the 2 colours that attracts the greatest attention. Now really struggling seemingly as he slows the aircraft down into this very strong wind we've got at the moment. Great chance to give him a wave if you want yet. He's certainly not done yet, but he can certainly see you, and really flying very slowly. This is right down to almost looking below landing speed with the flap down as it goes past towards your left-hand side. although he doesn't spend a lot of time upside down in this because that actually doesn't help your energy management too much, particularly with a lower rated engine. Of course, there is also a 260 horsepower version of this, much more loved by the air display pilots than this particular variant. Coming back in now, 45 from the left-hand side. Underside pass as he pulls up. And you see the underside there, a deep black colour. Although still flying after many years with the Air Force, Rod went into business management in aviation, flight simulator work, and then a very poignant and effective spell with the CAA, during which time he helped develop the very rules and regulations we're using here today to manage air displays. One of the few in our business to conduct a multitude of different roles as well, having worked for many years as a flying display director himself. And supporting and managing a whole load of air shows around the country, including Blackpool, Biggin Hill and the Great Yorkshire Show. But spending most of his time now supporting the well-known flying displays and the flying days at the Imperial War Museum at Duxford, a must see and visit venue if you have not yet done it. It's both parents, grandparents, and of course the children will love every part of that, and well worth supporting. But I just hear him buzzing on the air in the background, and after what's been a very eloquent display, coming round now for his final pass. Just one of many aircraft Rod has flown. The list is way too long to get in the 30 seconds left now, but from the left and right, please give Rod a massive farewell as he waggles his wings, adds coats, umbrellas, wave your arms. Rod Dean, superlative display in the Slingsby Firefly. Well, it's certainly not all over till it's over, and although our supervisor from the Tigers is pacing up and down beside me here. Why are they here? Well, it's to inspire, educate and promote aviation heritage through the operation and demonstration of these rare and very historically accurate aircraft, their engines and of course the artefacts that go with them as well. The company wants to showcase the historic design and engineering excellence whilst describing also the pathway to modern technology and sustainability through what we often refer to as STEAM. That's focusing on science, technology, engineering, art and mathematics. Through media visits and promotional activities, something the company is very, very keen to promote. But of course, not least also to tell the story of and commemorate those who have fought for their country. Running in now on the B-axis from the centre, a wonderful photographic opportunity. This particular Spitfire representing essentially the ultimate in its long development, right up towards and exceeding the Second World War. A Mark 19, an unarmed high-altitude reconnaissance aircraft, one of a batch of 79 Mark 19s built at Supermarine, Southampton, just along the south coast from us here. But you notice the sound is different, and although not a traditional Merlin, this of course a 2,000 horsepower Griffon 65, and a mighty machine it is as well. Representing very much the pinnacle of the Spitfire's development in both terms of speed and altitude. With a top speed of 446 miles an hour and a ceiling of 42,000 feet. This aircraft was delivered to the Central Photographic Reconnaissance Unit of Royal Air Force Benson on the 13th of January 1945. The aircraft break now, an opportunity to see both the undersides and of course see the different formats, plan designs, and also hear the differences as well. Familiar names in the cockpits flying the P-51, his popular steed, Alistair Williams, an ex-Army Air Corps pilot, joining the Army straight from school, training initially as an anti-tank helicopter pilot, serving 2 tours there, and also as the instructor at Millwallop, the home base of Army Aviation. Flew 2 seasons with the Blue Eagles, and has been working with Rolls-Royce operations team since 2016. Right now you can hear the growl of that phenomenal Griffon engine. The aircraft, having been moved to Belgium and then to Holland, was engaged on active service with 16 Squadron right up until the end of the war and participated in Operation Crossbow, detecting V1 and V2 Vengeance weapon launch sites. Flown today by another well-known name, Mark Discombe, ex of the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, of course, a very experienced warbird pilot himself. After a short period in storage back then in 1950, this particular aircraft was selected for conversion to the meteorological research flights known as the temperature and humidity of the upper air masses, otherwise THUM. This aircraft performed the very last Spitfire Thumb sortie on the 10th of June 1957, and alongside its other sister Mark 19s, it was retired into ceremonial and display duties to help establish the Royal Air Force Historic Aircraft Flight as it was known then, of course the forerunner of today's Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. Keeping to the company tradition, this aircraft's now very much widely recognised as an ambassador for Rolls-Royce, appearing at many air displays and charitable events around the country. Representing not just, of course, the heritage of the Spitfire, but the Rolls-Royce engines that power them, and also highlighting the constant technical development of both the aircraft and its engines, honouring at the same time the pilots of the nations who flew them, and the men and women who built and maintained them. I think you'll agree is just an absolutely captivating sight there. Disco, as we know him, just about to complete his final pass, but before doing that, putting in a Derry turn there, of course, made famous by the legendary John Derry, and a very good evasive fighter movement. He'll give way very shortly, but do give him a wave as he comes by now from the right-hand side. He's just completing his solo section. We've yet to see, of course, the Mustang undergo its paces as well. But this Mark 19 in magnificent paintwork, just dipping in, having a good look down at you now. Give him a wave, pulling up, no doubt one more victory roll. Here she comes. Utterly delightful sight. He clears off to the left-hand side, being replaced very shortly by Alistair Stake-Williams, bringing in the P-51. And you may wonder, some of you who don't know the background to these aircraft or the company, why it's not another Spitfire. Well, the P-51 was the most successful long-range fighter escort of World War II, but it wasn't an instant success. Designed for the British initially, a lot of people generally link it heavily with the American forces, but designed, completed in a very, very short time to meet the constant need for more fighters. The Mustangs were originally built with Allison engines, and whilst they were remarkable at low altitudes, these particular variants were very underpowered and considered disappointing at higher altitudes. Well, you can guess what's coming. It was late in 1942. The aircraft was transformed when Rolls-Royce Merlin engines were tested in place of the Allisons. And the same Merlin, of course, used in the Spitfire, but became license built by Packard in the USA in 43 onwards. And you'll often hear a reference to Packard Merlins. Well, here is one now. Coming in from the right, Alistair Stegg in the P-51 Mustang with its Merlin engine. Giving a near perfect marriage of both engine and platform. The P-51D with a bubble canopy and 6 guns, making it one of the most iconic and potent fighters of all time. It had a terrific range in excess of 2,000 miles thanks to a huge fuel capacity, 1,000 litres internally, and was able to take even more in drop tanks. And a very impressive level maximum speed of 437 miles an hour at 25,000 feet and a max diving speed of over 500 miles, all with a service ceiling just a little under 42,000 feet. Whilst we remain mesmerised by this great performance as well, a very different aircraft. This particular Rolls-Royce Heritage Flight Mustang rolled off the North American production line at Inglewood in mid-1944, delivered to the United States Army Air Force in July 1945. Didn't actually see combat during World War II. We think it spent most of its service life in various training units in the USA, eventually being delivered to the Royal Canadian Air Force in 1951. So now you know the backstory, how this became the partner to the Griffin-powered Spitfire, successfully flying the flag for Rolls-Royce. This was added relatively recently to give the Heritage flight a full capability of a pairs Merlin-powered display. From a company perspective, the other thing it does, of course, it basically enlarges the global appeal and celebrating the historic and ongoing relationship between Rolls-Royce and, of course, the United States Air Force, and indeed many, many other international aircraft engine operators throughout the world. Stunning topside pass from Stegg there. Again, it just gives them a chance to have a little peek down to see all the wonderful people on the shore here as well. And you can see this very much, it just feels and looks rugged and robust, doesn't it? Absolutely made for the business it did, not just escorts, but pure fighting as well. Tremendous machine. Lovely zing at high speed as well. This aircraft, known as Warhorse, a nod back to a previous namesake of the colours of Colonel Donald Blakesley, the commanding officer of the 4th Fighter Group, the Debden Eagles. His radio call sign was Horseback Leader. Both aircraft operating from a dedicated hangar at East Midlands Airport. It's very close, of course, to the main Rolls-Royce site in Derby. The pair of them housed in addition to their own Harvard 2B. Well as the machine guns with 400 rounds inboard and 270 on the outboard. There are of course 2 hard points for the additional load of up to 2,000 pounds of bombs, or 10 5-inch rockets. Really, really potent fighter. Although gracefully flown, the original aircraft of course very robust, able to withstand +8 to -4G. As with all birds, all pilots carefully considering the future and longevity of these machines. Steg there, you may have heard him buzz in the background, just calling for his final pass, and you know the form already. This is the final pass, very sadly, of this afternoon. Now the closing movement, so massive wave off. I hope you've all enjoyed yourselves. Steg Williams here in the P51 Mustang. We'll just dip, maybe give you another roll, but hands, hats, whatever you've got, give him a tremendous wave off. Superb flying, tremendous performance. Great to see this pair on the display circuit operating together. And that's him signing off, and the pair of them signing off. The Spitfire will join up in formation, get them back to base very, very shortly. And very sadly, with the now the non-appearance of the Red Arrows here today, and of course the fact that we're unable to launch the parachutists, then we honestly have to complete it as it is. So that is a wrap. It has been a wonderful, wonderful day, and we really hope that you tell all your friends. If you can't make it tomorrow, then send somebody else along, because we're very much hoping to entertain everybody as fully as we can for the next 3 days. If you did enjoy it today, please give us generously as you can. Drop some money, please, into those donation buckets to help us save Airbourne, and do your bit to make sure that this won't be the last year. 30% of what you give goes to local charities as well, to the Air Ambulance of Kent, Surrey and Sussex, the Eastbourne Dementia Action Alliance and the Salvation Army as well. But no need to rush away. Come and visit the Royal Air Force and Army exhibition on the Western Lawns. That's staying open through till 6 o'clock this evening. You can of course go through the Chinook facsimile, sample some food and catering by the brilliant chefs we've got here from Royal Air Force Odium, and also meet up with the Royal Air Force Regiment's gunners as well. If you want to test your reflexes, take a look at the Army's BATAC challenge, or test your courage on the climbing wall. Try out a virtual helicopter flight simulator, or just look at life in the Army through the virtual reality headsets. You can even do that from the top position of a tank commander, and see some of the footage that the Tigers have captured on previous visits to Airbourne as well. Don't forget the big wheel, children's play zones, and shopping, of course, along the Proms and the Wish Tower area, all staying open till 6 o'clock. And do give the Air Bears a hug on your way out as well. If you enjoyed the action, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok or Twitter. Put up your photos and videos, send your wishes, and also listen out on 87.7 very shortly as well for any activity out on the streets or issues with the traffic. But most importantly, please take your litter with you. Don't leave it lying around. Make sure you've got the kids, won't you, and all their toys as well with you. Recycle the waste, dispose of it sensibly and safely. We'll be looking after that as well. We'll do the recycling for you this year. And if you're staying on, hopefully for a bit longer as well, the last bus back to the 5-acre field car park will depart Cavendish Place at 6:40. You can also dip into our survey as well, and also helping to make this a more sustainable airshow for the future as well. Just go to the online survey at eastbourneairshow.com/survey and enjoy the pop-up park as well. There's no need to rush off. Still a delightful evening ahead. Take out some of the entertainment in the local theatres. We've got the Genesis Phil Collins tribute tonight, as well as the Invisible Man on at the theatre as well. And so plenty to do. Tomorrow, of course, it's food time once again with the RAF Typhoon coming back to join us. The Chinook with a taste of blade slap as well, plus all the aircraft and teams you've seen here today as well. Have a great evening. And pass our best wishes. It's been lovely talking to you all today, and we hope you have a very safe and easy journey home. Thank you.